Congratulations! You're now on to phase 2 of the speech writing process, the introduction. So now that you've finished the major part of the speech, which is the body, it's time to figure out how are you going to start this speech off. And I like to say first impressions are everything. Think about the front porch of a house. The house is your speech. The front porch is the introduction. That's what's inviting, gives you enough flavor about what's going on inside the house. It's really that inviting space to say, I'd like for you to come in and enjoy what I have inside. There are 4 components in the introduction of a speech. The first component is the attention getter. The second is the credibility statement, followed by the third, where you are going to relate the topic to the audience. And finally, you're going to preview the main points. Last, when the introduction is all finished, you will come up with a transition statement to lead us into the body of the speech. Now, there's something really important to remember. You'll always start the speech with an attention getter, and you'll always end the introduction with a preview of main points. The credibility statement and the relating to the topic to the audience, those 2 statements can be flip-flopped. So you can decide whether you'd like to relate the topic to the audience first and then build credibility, or as I have on the screen, start with the credibility statement followed by relating the topic to the audience. It's really up to you. For the attention getter, the idea is it's your job to hook the audience from the first words that you say. So from the audience's perspective, they're thinking, who is this and should I listen? We are very closely related to the English department. The hook and the attention getter of a speech is very closely related to the hook and the attention grabber of an essay. What do you write at the first part of your essay to draw in the reader? It's the exact same thing with a speech. Let's get into some do's and don'ts for the attention getter. Do start your speech out with a statistic, a quote, a story, even a sound, movement, or riddle. Whatever you do, start it out with something engaging and unique. But please stay away from starting with your name, starting with an apology, or starting with the purpose of your speech. For instance, please do not start your speeches in this class with, hello, my name is, and today I'm going to talk to you about. Also, please don't start your speech with an apology, like I'm really tired today, or my voice is going out, or I'm really nervous. Those are all ways to kind of take away from grabbing the attention of the audience. Instead, start with the do's, a startling statistic, a quote that you really like, or maybe even a movement or sound that will grab the attention of the audience. The second component of the introduction is the credibility statement. In this statement, you're going to establish credibility with your audience. From the audience perspective, they're asking the question, why are you a credible source of information? What you can do to build credibility with your audience is to specifically state your relationship to the topic. It can be as easy as, after researching this topic, I found X, Y, and Z. Or maybe even, I've been a fan of blank for blank number of years. The credibility statement doesn't need to be long and it doesn't need to be drawn out, but really what you want to do is establish with the audience that you've done research, or for some reason you are the expert in this for this topic in this moment. After you've established credibility with the audience, the third step is relating the topic to the audience. You don't want the audience to make that connection themselves. Instead, you want to make that connection. So you're going to relate the topic of the speech to the interests of the audience. Remember in chapter 5 how we talked about audience analysis and kind of knowing who your audience is. Imagine that the audience is thinking, why should I care about this topic? Or what does this topic have to do with me? So in relating the topic to the audience, some things you can do are use rhetorical questions and also engaging statements like we, us, and you. So for rhetorical questions, you may ask the audience, how many of you have wondered? Or something like, have you ever felt? Those are great ways of connecting the feelings and the ideas of the audience to what it is that you're going to talk about that day. Or even using engaging conversational statements like we, us, or you. Something like, we live in a world that blank, blank, blank. Or even, you all know someone who. Those are great ways of letting the audience know specifically that the topic that you're going to talk about is curated and crafted for their interests. The fourth and final step of the introduction is a preview of the main points. Give the audience a roadmap for the speech by previewing the 2 to 5 main points of the speech. The audience might be thinking, all right, now that I know who you are, you've got me interested, and I know why the topic should be of interest to me. Where are we going with this? Or even, what do you want me to remember when this is all done? One of the best ways of previewing the main points is referring back to your central idea statement. That statement can be changed with just the beginning saying, today we're going to explore 1, 2, and 3 main point. Or maybe you can do something a little bit more creative. But either way, an audience likes to know where they're going. Imagine if you're getting in the car with a friend and they said, all right, we're going to spend a day together. Most of you would like to know what you're going to do. You might not need all the fine details, but you would like to know if you're making a trip to the store, maybe going to the mall, or going to another friend's house. That's really what the preview of main points are. It's brief, it's specific, but it gives your audience a roadmap to where the speech is headed next. All right, you've now gone through the 4 components of the introduction. That last component is a transition, and we'll talk about that in a different video. But here are some tips for the delivery of the introduction. First, be creative. The introduction is not very long, but it's your chance to make a first impression. Second, use a lot of eye contact. Third, be brief. The major components of your speech is the body. The introduction is really just the porch. You want to be brief, be creative, and then move on to the most important part of your speech. Number 4, memorize most of your introduction. You don't have to memorize all of it, but to be able to have a lot of eye contact, you need to be able to memorize some of that introduction so you feel confident going into your speech. 5th, practice using pauses, gestures, and vocal changes. These tips and tricks will keep the audience engaged and wanting more of the body of your speech. And lastly, always take a deep breath before you begin. Don't rush the opening. Take a deep breath and start with your attention getter. You've got this. Congratulations. You've finished phase 2 of their speech writing process, the introduction. Remember, first impressions are everything. It's so important once you finish the body of the speech to create and to craft an introduction that's engaging, that's exciting, and that really gets the audience hooked on your topic. You've got this.